How was Madison Beer discovered? I was discovered at 12 years old on YouTube. I was posting covers, singing some songs, and Mr. Justin Bieber saw one of them, and I was signed to him and Scooter and all that stuff.
I think being in this industry, you get caught up sometimes in thinking, I have to be perfect. I have to be prim. Everybody has to look at me and I have to not make any mistake.
No, I absolutely wasn't prepared for it. I didn't even finish high school. I moved to LA when I was 16 and I was going to the club.
I literally just want to like go, anybody got me, man? Yeah! It's just so much. Oh my God.
How do you feel you were portrayed?
I was the villain that year, and I was only 16 years old.
It seems wild.
It was cool to hate Cher Lloyd.
You know how some celebrities can never escape their origin story? Like no matter what they do, they're always that one kid from Disney Channel or the guy who used to do Vine. For Madison Beer, that story is Justin Bieber tweeted her when she was 13. That's it. That's the beginning, middle, and end of her Wikipedia page, at least according to the internet. And look, that's not nothing. In 2012, Justin Bieber was basically one of the biggest pop stars alive. So when he randomly tweeted a YouTube link of a girl singing At Last, the internet immediately crowned her the next big thing. Within hours, there were headlines calling her Justin Bieber's new discovery, and within weeks, she had a label deal with Island Records. She hadn't even released a single yet.
Who are you gonna be?
So yeah, people were skeptical because the music industry already has a reputation for manufacturing pop stars, and Madison seemed like the prototype. Young, beautiful, talented enough, and conveniently blessed with Justin Bieber's stamp of approval. It didn't take long before people started whispering, she didn't earn this, she's an industry plant. And here's the problem with that: once the word plant gets attached to your name, it's basically over. Doesn't matter what you release, how hard you work, or how long you've been around. People stop seeing you as a musician and start seeing you as a marketing experiment. Back in the early 2010s, posting song covers on YouTube was basically the teenage lottery. Justin Bieber himself was discovered that way, so fans were always on the lookout for the next Bieber. Madison Beer was one of those hopefuls. She was 13, recording covers in her bedroom, uploading them to a channel with barely a few hundred views, and then lightning struck. On July 17, 2012, Bieber tweeted her infamous cover, and because Justin had millions of followers at the time, the tweet exploded. Overnight, Madison Beer went from being an unknown girl on YouTube to trending worldwide.
Bieber's tweet, and I was like, about what? She was like, you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, I freaked out and I hung up the phone. I was like hysterically crying outside of a candy store with my mom in the car. And I'm like, what's happening?
Now, in hindsight, this was both the best and worst thing that could have happened to Madison Beer. Best because it got her a record deal almost immediately. Worst because people decided that was the only reason she had a career. The media wasn't kind either. Every article framed her as Justin Bieber's discovery. The narrative wasn't young girl gets signed, it was Justin Bieber makes another star. That subtle shift planted the idea that Madison didn't get there herself, Justin Bieber put her there. Here's the thing though, the term industry plant itself is kind of meaningless. Ask 10 people to define it and you'll get 10 different answers. Some people say it's when an artist pretends to be independent but secretly has label backing. Some say it's when someone comes out of nowhere with money, connections, and and hype. Others just use it as shorthand for artists I don't think deserve success. By most definitions, Madison Beer could be seen as a plant. She didn't build a huge following on her own before getting signed. She was scouted and basically fast-tracked. But so was Billie Eilish, so was Olivia Rodrigo, so was basically every pop star you've ever heard of. The only difference is Madison's planting happened out in the open in front of millions of Bieber fans who could point at it and say she didn't do this herself. And to make matters worse, Madison didn't have a viral hit to change the narrative. Billie had Ocean Eyes, Olivia had Driver's License, but unfortunately Madison's early singles did not dominate charts in the same way, which meant the industry plant accusations never got replaced with a success story. Instead, the label plant just stuck harder, like people were waiting for her to prove them wrong, and unfortunately she did not have the numbers yet to shut them up.
It's time to be honest. Parkwood, Columbia, whoever, Parkwood, it's time to let Chloe and Halle go.
You should not sign to an artist who's still actively making music if you are making music.
Everyone loves to say Chloe and Halle broke up too soon.
Right as the general public was getting invested to them as a duo, they split up like that and tried to get them invested as individuals. But that's a big jump.
The pressure to become a multifaceted artist has ruined good music.
There's something incredibly frustrating about watching an artist who's clearly got it all get treated like she doesn't. Halle Bailey has the kind of voice that makes you stop what you're doing. It's the voice that got her cast as the Little Mermaid, the voice that made Beyonce sign her, and the voice that helped build one of the most respected R&B duos in recent years, Chloe x Halle. And now she's stepping into her own solo career, or at least she's trying to, because while Halle is out here dropping music, starring in major films, and literally singing like an angel, her solo rollout feels less like a moment and more like a background event. Quiet drops, minimal promo, confused fans wondering if she's even releasing an album or just testing the waters. And don't get me wrong, this isn't about her talent, that's not up for debate. If anything, the problem is that the industry doesn't seem to know what to do with her kind of talent. First of all, let's make one thing clear. Halle Bailey isn't someone the industry had to build from scratch. She came preloaded with everything labels dream of. Let's go back to the beginning. Before she was Disney royalty or a viral red carpet moment, Halle was one half of Chloe x Halle. And if you weren't there during that era, let me catch you up. This was not your average sister duo. These girls were writing, producing, and arranging their own music as teenagers. Their debut album was Grammy nominated. Their second album was a cultural reset. It was smooth, mature, it was quality. People weren't saying these girls are good for their age. They were saying this is what the industry should sound like. And Halle, she was the calm power in the duo, the kind of vocalist that didn't need to overdo anything. Just one note and you knew she had range, not just vocally but emotionally too. So when both sisters decided to explore solo careers, it felt exciting. It didn't feel like a breakup, more like a graduation. It made sense, they had already mastered being a duo. It was time to grow individually. And for Halle, the potential was limitless. She had the voice, she had the artistic credibility, she had acting chops, she was cast as Ariel in The Little Mermaid, arguably one of the most pressure-filled roles you can be given as a black woman in Hollywood, and Halle nailed it. She even had mainstream interest beyond music. People genuinely liked her. They were rooting for her not just because she was talented, but because she came across as authentic. She wasn't chasing clout, she wasn't trying to prove anything, she just was. Which makes what happens next all the more confusing, because when someone has this this much raw skill, this much cultural goodwill, and this much star power, you expect the industry to move mountains. But for some reason, when it came time for Halle to step into her solo era, things got quiet, very, very quiet. So picture this, you're a rising superstar, you have just played Ariel in Disney's live action The Little Mermaid, one of the most iconic roles in pop culture history. Millions of little girls are dressing like you, people are crying in theaters hearing you sing part of your world. You've done press tours, red carpets, and built massive momentum. Naturally, your first solo single should be a major event like shut the internet down level of hype. Instead, Halle Bailey dropped Angel like she was trying not to wake a baby. Just a quiet post on Instagram and a music video released that, while beautiful, felt almost under the radar.
Don't know what's going on. I am releasing a song tonight, my own song by myself, and it's called Angel, my first solo record, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. So it drops at 9 PST, so that means in about 20-ish, 25-ish minutes.
And that's not even me being dramatic. Some fans literally didn't find out the song existed until days later. Imagine that you have Beyonce as your mentor, a lead role in a billion-dollar Disney machine, and your first solo single ever gets treated like a B-side. Now let's talk numbers. Angel didn't debut on the Billboard Hot 100. It barely got playlisted on major Spotify editorial lists. You know, the ones every new artist depends on. Yeah, not there. But more importantly, it should have trended. The vocals were stunning, the lyrics were empowering. And on top of that, it had a deeply personal message about black girlhood and identity. But because the rollout was almost non-existent, the song got buried, and that's heartbreaking. Then came In Your Hands, another gorgeous track. And another soft release, same cycle, low promotion, low push, but high talent. It almost feels like Halle's career is being quietly sabotaged by silence. And here's where it gets weird. It's not like she doesn't have visibility. Netflix press tours, award shows, even baby rumors with DDG were trending more than her music. So why is it that the noise around her personal life is louder than the push for her actual art? Let's be honest, if this was any other artist, someone less vocally gifted, labels would be throwing money at a debut album, a TikTok campaign, a live performance on Fallon, just something. But Halle, she's been left to launch a solo career without nothing but a ring light, a few reposts, and her raw talent. It's giving, we'll drop this and see what happens. That's not strategy, that's neglect. Because here's what happens when you treat a once-in-a-generation voice like background noise. The industry starts to believe the story you're telling, and the story they're telling right now is that Halle's solo music isn't worth pushing, even though it clearly is.
Hey guys, come see how I write a song as a retired pop star turned indie artist.
Every time I let somebody in, they let me down, I kick them out again.
No, I absolutely wasn't prepared for it. I didn't even finish high school. I moved to LA when I was 16, and I was going to the club.
So basically when I was with my label, the reason why everything was so crazy was because, so I signed with one person, an A&R and the president of the label and whatever, and I had my team. Pretty soon after that, the president of the label left, went started his own label, and then we got a new president. I was really excited, and then I put out my first album that I was working on with my A&R. It was great, and I loved it. And then the president was like, we had a meeting, and he was like, oh, so I fired your A&R.
Some artists blow up overnight. One viral song, a few remixes, and suddenly they're on tour with Taylor Swift. Others spend years making genuinely great music only to be quietly ignored by the industry that claims to love authenticity. Olivia O'Brien falls into that second category. You might know her as the girl who sang that sad song with Nash.
I hate you, I love you, I hate that I love you.
But if that's where your knowledge of her ends, you've missed out on one of pop's most underrated careers. Olivia was and still is the full package. She has the look, the sound, and most importantly, the talent. And also, she basically created the sad girl pop star aesthetic. But somewhere between being the cool, relatable, sad girl and the next big pop star, Olivia O'Brien got lost in the shuffle. She got caught in that strange limbo between critically good and algorithmically invisible. Every pop story starts somewhere, and Olivia's started in her bedroom. She was just a teenager in Napa, California, writing songs on her guitar and uploading them to SoundCloud. One of those songs would eventually change everything. It was honest, simple, and relatable in the exact way people online love. She uploaded a rough version at first, and then Nash, a producer and singer who had discovered her music online, reached out to collaborate. They recorded it properly and released it in 2016.
What about all the times you would pick me up and we'd just drive?
Within months, the song went viral. It hit number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, went triple platinum, and became the breakup anthem of 2016.
People just started liking it. There was a bunch of YouTubers, like Andrea Russet was one of the first people to post it when it was just on SoundCloud, and then ended up on like Kylie Jenner's Snapchat story. Whoa. And she was like, "This is the saddest song ever, I love it." And then it just suddenly was like on the radio everywhere.
Despite all of this success, there was a catch. The song was released under Nash's name. Olivia was technically just the featured artist. Even though she had written most of the lyrics and sung the most memorable parts, the public saw her as the guest, not the creator. In interviews, Olivia later admitted that she felt overshadowed, that her contribution wasn't really acknowledged the way it should have been. It's one of those early career experiences that shapes how artists view the entire music industry forever, and it's ironic because that song was the blueprint for everything that comes after in Gen Z pop. After I Hate You, I Love You, Olivia signed with Island Records and began releasing solo material. The first few songs she dropped, including Trust Issues,
Cooking up some breakfast for someone who doesn't care, busting my ass for someone who's not there. Yeah, I'm empty inside, I just don't feel alive, and I don't wanna. I just need to learn to love myself. I need to.
were emotional, witty, and honest in a way that felt refreshing, especially in 2016. She wasn't pretending to be happy or polished or perfect, she was just real. Her lyrics were basically what teenage girls were already tweeting: heartbreak, loneliness, mental health, messy friendships. Her visuals were simple, sometimes pastel, sometimes grunge, and she used social media not to sell but vent. That made her audience feel even more connected to her. She was like a friend who just happened to make really good music. But, of course, there's a but. Here's where it gets complicated. In the late 2010s, pop was still very radio-driven. You had these massive polished productions from Ariana Grande, Dua Lipa, and early Camila Cabello dominating charts. Critics loved her tone and honesty, but unfortunately, radio did not care. She wasn't marketable in the way labels wanted, not a dance pop girl, not an edgy old girl. Even when Jocelyn came out in 2020, a song about being cheated on that had the perfect hook for TikTok, it only kind of went viral, and let's be real, if Jocelyn had been released by another artist with a bigger team, it probably would have been everywhere.
I literally just want to like go, ooh, yeah, yeah.
When music made us all unite! Unite!
Dama, no, Dama, no.
Dama, no. Dama, no. Here it is, listen. Excuse my good babe. Excuse my good babe.
Every once in a while, pop music gives us an artist who feels like they were built in a lab. The look, perfect, the songs, radio ready, the voice, unstoppable. On paper, Jessie J was one of those artists. She could sing circles around almost anyone. She wrote hits for other people before even launching her own career, and when she finally debuted, she already had everything you would think a pop star needs. But that was exactly the problem. Jessie J wasn't just good at singing, she was too good. She had the kind of voice that leaves no room for subtlety, the kind of voice that reminds you you're listening to a performance even when you just wanted a casual pop song. And in a genre that's built on simplicity, relatability, and repetition, being too talented can actually make you stand out in the worst way possible. In theory, music should be about, you know, talent, like best singer, best songwriter, right? The pop industry runs on relatability and branding. Britney Spears was never out here doing Mariah Carey vocals, but she didn't need to because she was the ultimate teen pop princess. Lady Gaga didn't out-sing anyone even though she's a great singer, she has a great voice, but she out-weirded them. She was mostly known for strange behaviors, and that's what made her stand out. Same thing with Rihanna. She's not known for being a powerhouse vocalist. She's more known for the cool, effortless, untouchable aesthetic.
I remember thinking, she could beat me, but she cannot beat my outfit.
Jessie J's thing was just she could really sing. Taylor Swift isn't loved for Celine Dion level vocals, but for lyrics that feel like your own diary. However, Jessie J was the opposite, too technically perfect. For example, like a ballads girl or edgy girl, they threw her everywhere. One song was soulful, the next was bubblegum, the next was edgy. She was doing everything, which meant she wasn't really owning anything. Katy Perry during Teenage Dream is the perfect example. Every single looked, sounded, and felt like the same universe. Jessie J's universe was basically 10 different galaxies at once. So even though she could deliver vocals that broke glass, the industry did not know how to package her, and if the industry doesn't know, the audience won't know either.
Cher Lloyd never disappeared. Her second album was just sabotaged. In 2010, UK teenager Cher Lloyd skyrocketed to fame on the X Factor UK.
What are the cultural implications? What is it about this perfect storm that on this faithful day in 2010, when she auditioned for the X Factor, we all said, yes, I like her, this is my girl.
I didn't know there was a hate campaign against me, but okay.
We always tell them to avoid any bad stuff like that. They've got to get out there on the Saturday night and perform, and we always get their head into a positive place. She's got so much support out there and so many loyal fans towards her.
How do you feel you were portrayed?
I was the villain that year, and I was only 16 years old.
In the early 2010s, there was a very specific type of pop star the industry loved to create. Young, loud, a little bit messy, and just controversial enough to keep people talking. It was basically the era of manufactured rebellion, a time when teenage girls could become overnight sensations simply by being interesting enough to divide opinions. And for a brief glittering moment, Cher Lloyd looked like she was about to become that girl. She had the accent, she had the attitude, she had the catchphrases, the tabloid attention, and most importantly, a hit. But something strange happened. Despite all the ingredients for stardom, Cher Lloyd never quite arrived where the industry expected her to. She didn't become a long-lasting global superstar like some of her peers. She didn't dominate pop culture the way her early success suggested she might. Instead, she became something else entirely. A cautionary tale, a conversation piece, and one of the 2010s most famous almost pop stars. When Cher Lloyd walked onto the X Factor stage in 2010, she wasn't just auditioning for a record deal, she was basically stepping into a machine that turns teenagers into television narratives. Real competitions don't reward authenticity, they reward digestible archetypes, and Cher Lloyd's archetype was decided very clearly on from the beginning. She wasn't framed as the underdog, she wasn't framed as the prodigy, she was framed as the attitude problem.
That I am almost aggressive. You know, tough, fiery, have an attitude problem. And whenever I meet someone new and they have a conversation with me, the response I always get is, "Oh, you're not at all like I thought you were going to be."
From her very first performances, you can tell that Cher stood out for reasons that had little to do with her vocal ability. Because she rapped, she leaned into her accent, she spoke confidently in interviews, she did not visibly defer for authority. For a 16-year-old girl on British television, this was treated as a flaw. The judges regularly commented on her demeanor rather than her performances.
How do you feel you were portrayed?
I was the villain that year, and I was only 16 years old.
The audience reaction became polarized, and slowly, subtly, the show trained viewers to see Cher not as a contestant, but as a test. Was she talented or was she annoying? Was she confident or was she arrogant? These questions followed her long after the show ended. By the time Cher Lloyd released her debut album, Sticks and Stones, the album arrived less as a clean slate and more as a continuation of an argument Cher never really started herself. Critics weren't asking whether the music worked, they were asking whether she had learned her lesson. And that's a dangerous place for a debut artist to be. Instead of being allowed to experiment, Cher was expected to correct herself because the album's sound bounced between pop, hip-hop influence, bratty confidence, and moments of vulnerability. Which for a young artist should have been seen as exploration. Instead, it was framed as inconsistency. However, the real issue wasn't the music, it was the way Cher responded to public criticism.
I think people have misjudged me. Yeah. I'm not the person that I get made out to be, but that's fine. I know who I am, and the people who know me know who I am as well.
She defended herself on social media, she clapped back in interviews, she refused to perform the version of humility people expected from teenage girls in pop. Because when male artists push back, they're framed as misunderstood or passionate, but when young women do it, they're framed as difficult or emotional or immature. Industry support quietly thinned, media framing grew harsher. Every response she made became further evidence that she couldn't handle fame rather than proof that she was being subjected to it too early. The Problem Child label wasn't just commentary, it was a warning sign, one that told the industry it was acceptable to stop investing in Cher Lloyd. That's all I've got for you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this one. Also, if you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know as well. And with that being said, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.